We recently got the news that Hazbin Hotel will finally be airing in January of 2024, and with it we got a teaser showing a lot of scenes from throughout Season 1. We made a full video breaking those down, but today I want to really deep dive on this one little shot of all the overlords in a sort of business meeting together, with what looks like infographics about the annual extermination in the background. My theory is that they aren't just discussing the process as a whole, but rather how they might personally be benefiting from this. So why would the overlords want an annual extermination? Let's dive into it. Hazbin Hotel is premised on there being an annual event in Hell called the Extermination, where angels come down and use angelic weapons to kill earthborn sinners. While the local demons such as imps and hellhounds live finite lives and then have no existence after their deaths, the sinners of the Pride Ring are the actual souls of humans that already lived a mortal existence over on Earth. Here in Hell, they manifest as a monster that reflects the nature of their soul through its time on Earth, with their immortal life being their punishment for their sins. Now, because they don't die, that means the Pride Ring in particular has become overcrowded, and since they can still suffer, that makes them very hard to support. The sinners can't starve to death, it seems, but that doesn't mean they don't experience hunger, and in fact, the sinners are probably the most massive strain on the food system in Hell, almost all of which comes from the Wrath Ring, produced by the much more mortal imps. All of this is done just to stop the sinners from being in pain from starvation, but it isn't necessary to keep them alive. There may be masses of sinners in the Pride Ring who are so addicted to their vices that they can go long periods of time with no food just so what money they have can support their addiction. At some point, the sinner population would become so big that there was no way for Hell to reasonably support it, and the annual extermination would begin. According to supposed old livestream lore, the annual extermination was set up with the help of Lucifer. While this means he is involved, it does not necessarily mean he would have pushed for the extermination without the insistence from heaven, who I imagine to be the ones who first proposed the idea. This would be less about how Hell is able to support its population, and more about the potential of demons to eventually reach heaven. While the annual extermination may have been happening for hundreds or thousands of years now, it's also possible that the extermination was a response to the development of humans creating spaceship technology. With other inventions of Earth making it to Hell, perhaps the angels actually feared that the sinners could overwhelm their tiny little planet of heaven that floats above Hell if the sinners were able to use rocket ship technology. Below the rationale of the angels, there seems to be another, even more dark motive by the head of the exorcist, Adam. Adam is of course famous as the first man in our real-life Bibles, with him being put in charge of the sinners in Hell with this extermination, seemingly because he is the father of all of them, the first man that these sinners all descend from in some way. In the show, Lucifer is married to Lilith, famous in Jewish mythology as the first wife of Adam before Eve, who is said in various legends to run off with fallen angels. Adam seems to be set up to be not just the first man, but the first sexist as well, reflecting hundreds or really thousands of years of the Eden narrative being used to blame women for certain wrongs in the world and to keep them legitimately oppressed within their religion, as opposed to trying to use the themes of how Eve completes Adam to elevate women to the same level as man, even if only in their own domains. Lilith was said to be cast out of Eden specifically for not being subservient to Adam, as she saw herself as an equal created from the same dust as him. In the show, thus, the annual extermination seems to be Adam's way of punishing Lilith for her mistakes. Lilith was said to be the first of all women, and thus she would have been the mother of all souls the way Adam was their father. If she truly did flee the garden with Lucifer before creating human children, she likely sees the souls of sinners as her revenge for them not being her own descendants. She was promised to be the mother of all of them, and now she took the children from their real mother and has reshaped them in her own demonic image. Adam thus may have spearheaded this campaign for an extermination long before the threat of humans flying up to heaven, as he simply wanted revenge against all the sinful humans who did not live up to his intentions and to take them away from Lilith again. Regardless of when and why this extermination really began, it would quickly become a defining aspect of living in the Pride Ring. Sinners are seen as above the lower native species of Hell despite being restricted to the Pride Ring because of their immortality, but the annual extermination turned their existence into a year-long anxious wait for the possibility of an execution before starting it all over again. Now, the Overlords seem to have the least to worry about, as their power and wealth allows them to be safe in buildings that are hard to get into, and the angels that hunt them have no reason to go after the Overlords in particular. Instead, their focus seems to be the masses of people who have more or less fallen out of Hell's hierarchy entirely, sinners who are essentially homeless, possibly starving for long periods of time, and people who don't even have a home to hide in. This puts less strain on Hell's overall resources and allows those who are still within the system to get more value out of their money in more ways than one. While fewer people to spread the wealth across makes more for the average person overall, it would seem that the money in Hazbin Hotel is actually directly tied to the souls of human sinners. Now, a lot of this is more weird old livestream lore from what I understand, and I've always had a hard time finding the exact source, despite how many people have explained the exact same concept to me. But I can't say with any certainty that this part is true, or just a community theory that has evolved too far. Supposedly, each human soul can be traded in Hell through demonic deals, the ones Alistair is famously known for. These, from what I understand, are represented by the actual currency we see floating around in Hell called souls, each printed to represent a fraction of a soul's full value, and then exchanged as general currency. Now, it is entirely possible that killing a sinner removes their soul from the currency market entirely, and if that were the case, then this meeting would be about how their souls may be decreasing in number overall, which would make this a meeting that is opposed to the annual extermination, perhaps. But if that was the case, I don't think they'd want the angelic weapons the exorcists use to kill sinners floating around on the black market. In the Hazbin Hotel pilot, we can see two demons picking up one such item that was left behind, which we already knew to be sold on the black market from behind the scenes talks. Here in the preview for the trailer, this demon can be seen among the overlords, giving the impression that she and her business of black market weapons are connected to all of them. With that in mind, I think they are very in favor of the annual extermination overall, as it gets rid of the lowly sinners that aren't contributing to their industries, and I believe their souls still remain in circulation as currency, with there now being fewer sinners trying to get their hands on it. Over a long period of time, they may even hope that more sinners are killed off than need be, allowing for their collection of souls to grow that they can hoard instead of keeping in circulation. Like the angels above them, the overlords may also fear the general sinners becoming too large to handle, and unlike Lucifer and the other higher elites, we know that overlords have had mass die-offs in the past and could potentially face other rebellions in the future. Alistair was just one very powerful sinner, but he toppled a lot of overlords on his own. If the sinners wanted to rebel as a whole, it wouldn't be that hard to go after a lot of the current overlords, in my opinion. The smaller the population of sinners, the easier it is to keep them docile and defend against any attacks from them in the infinite future that the overlords expect to live in Hell. At some point, the annual extermination may end, but by then, Hell may have so many angelic weapons that an all-out civil war could take place. It would be interesting to see, in later seasons perhaps, an overlord attempting to do this very thing, trying to cause an even bigger die-off than the annual extermination by arming a lot of the worst demons in Hell and setting them out on their own little purge night against the general population of sinners. This kind of event could even be what the show is building to as part of its bigger climax. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and let me know what kind of Hazbin Hotel videos you'd like me to make as we get ready for the upcoming release of Season 1 this January. See you guys next time.